Welcome back to Fantastic Fantastic. Before you dive into this episode, let me give you some context to help you better enjoy it. This episode was and still is about cringe, but halfway through this episode, Joey started to cry. Like really cry. Instead of scrapping the episode altogether, we decided that instead we would try a somewhat new format where I would ask her how she feels so I can better uncover what's going through her head and give her advice to hopefully make sure she doesn't feel this way anymore. There's two ways that you can watch this episode. The first way is that if you're like my sister and have encountered a lot of self-criticism, self-cringe, and self-hate, then maybe the advice that I give her also applies to you. The second way is that if you've encountered this before and figured out how to cope with it and figured out solutions, then maybe you can share with us in the comments. Either way, this has become one of my favorite episodes, so we hope that you watch all the way to the end because it does help with our retention, and make sure to like and subscribe. Anyway, that's it from me. Let's get into the episode.
Today I just wanted to talk about cringing and the voices in my head because there's many of them and they're all overflowing. Am I even gonna ever be successful at the thing I want to do? Like, I've been working 10 months straight for this, but I feel like I haven't reached the goal that I want to reach. And it's kind of disappointing, and I don't know if I'll ever get anywhere. Like, that's how I talk to myself. And
oh God.
And then I get like really sad, and then I feel like a lot of self-hatred.
But what's preventing you from like also giving yourself the grace that you deserve because you're also giving your best?
I think like sometimes when I try to be nicer to myself, I also end up feeling like I'm making excuses for not growing as much as I want to.
Okay.
Like, oh, you grew a little bit and like improve that. But I'm like, but there's another part of me that's like, you only improved in like one tiny aspect. Like, can't you improve more than that? Like, it's gonna take us like centuries if you're gonna go at this pace, Joey. You know, like that's I think that's a huge reason as to why I'm not like nicer to myself, because I feel like I could be faster. And now that I'm saying it out loud, it feels like I'm my own problem, because if I'm so negative, that probably stunts my growth, because I'm always crying. But I also I don't know. I think it's just really hard for me in general to balance being critical of myself and then also being nice, or like giving myself grace. I feel like,
well, why can't you be both?
I don't know. I don't think I know how to. That's what I'm saying.
Because being critical about your work is not the same thing as being mean to yourself.
Yeah, but I think like I'm critical, but then I also add on the mean part, just like just out of habit.
Yeah.
You know, like it could, I give myself constructive criticism in like everything I do, but I think like doing this work, I don't know, I guess I'm just extra mean and like hateful to myself. And I don't know where it came from. I also think it's because it's not just me. I think if it was just me, like a solo project, I would probably be kinder to myself, but because I have you as a co-host and I think you're wonderful and fantastic. I'm like, oh, like, gosh, Joey, you're like dragging Ian down. Like, you're just not improving as fast, and I can't, like, I'm just not on that level of where we can have a really good conversation with the both of us, and like me leading it, just how you lead conversations.
Is there anything that I need to do so that way you don't feel that way? Is that something that I'm doing?
No, I don't think you're doing anything. I mean, I appreciate all your feedback, and like, I think I'd appreciate anyone's feedback as a friend. I think it's more just how I view myself. I think I often worry that like I don't have value to give to other people. So like working with someone else can be really hard, because I'm like, if I mess up or if I'm like not doing as well as the other person, it feels like I'm dragging the other person with me down, even though I know they can excel if they had just done it alone. Even though, and Ian always reminds me that like, no, like we couldn't have done this like alone or like separately or solo. But like, even if you say all the right things, I feel like mentally,
yeah,
I'm still thinking I'm a dead weight. So yeah, I have to whisper because if my voice gets louder, I'm gonna start crying again.
Oh man, that's hard. That's hard. Hmm. I'm trying to think about if there's any like what I should say or what I can say that won't be any different than what I've told you before. Because I think like it's hard to see you being so negative to yourself. You know, like it's rough. It's rough. And I guess the way that I have dealt with self cringe is doing it anyway.
I think I do still do it anyway, but like I will push myself to do it and I'll still feel like I'm in the same cycle because I still think even if I'm getting better and even if you say I'm getting better, I feel like my standard is still getting higher. So
Okay.
there is still a huge gap. And then if I don't do it and I take a break, I also feel really disappointed in myself for giving up. Like I assume like taking a break or taking a step back is like, oh, I'm just giving up. Like, wow, you couldn't even try again. But when
Can you just lower your standards?
see, I don't think I can because again, I'm also working with someone else.
Right.
So
Well,
like
why do your standards keep going up?
because I just want more for myself and I expect more for us
Uh-huh.
and I feel like I deserve better, but like the process of getting or like having higher standards is like so heavy sometimes.
Okay. Right. You think that like let's say our standards are going higher and higher, but why does that happen?
Because we get better.
Uh-huh.
I don't know. That's like my only
Like
thought.
let's say you're taking a test, right?
Mhm.
And in the beginning of the class, you expect yourself to get a C. Midway through, you expect yourself to get an A. What changed?
That I like learned more
Mhm.
and that I have the ability to get higher than a C.
Yeah.
And yeah, like I think I know. Well, it's good to hear this, but I think I know all of that, but it's still really hard to apply it.
Hmm.
I think I only get really sad about it is when I like stop and think about and actually like look back at what I've done.
Okay, guys. So Joey's original topic was about cringe and how essentially there are like two types of cringe. There's like good cringe and then there's bad cringe. But I personally think that the way that Joey was explaining it wasn't as clear as I'm going to say I words, that I think that you could have explained it. And so let's try to have you talk about it a little bit more. Because what I'm hearing from Joey was that she had written down there's like 4 different types of voices that talk to you when you're in this state of cringe. When you hear these voices in your head, right? The voices. What do you think is like a good versus a bad critic? And how do you personally make that separation in your brain?
With drawing, I feel like I have a good sense of cringe or critic because I have like actionable items for myself and I also feel like I'm like, "Oh, this drawing sucks, but okay, this sucks, this sucks, this sucks. Wow, okay, cool. Like I know exactly what sucks and now I know exactly what to improve on." And I think like a bad type of cringe and like critique is the way I feel about speaking on a podcast where like I'm not exactly sure. I feel like everything's bad. Like I know it's bad. I don't know exactly why and I can't self-identify it. So when I try to improve, I feel like my head is scrambled and then I just become very hateful because I'm like I suck at everything and like I'm not actually I don't know exactly what to improve on. And I also like I just don't know where I'm moving and now I feel like I'm just
Why haven't you like made the effort to identify what you need to improve on specifically? Like categorize what makes a good speaker for a podcast.
actually I don't know. I guess I've never really thought about applying the same strategy that I apply to drawing where it's very like calculated to a podcast. And I think well yeah, I guess I just haven't tried that. Thank you. I think that might help actually the more I say it out loud. Yeah.
Because I think oftentimes when we're like in our minds, it's so easy to be everything and like be bad at everything when we haven't written it down. So I think like something that you can try is when you're feeling cringe, write it down. Because I also think that like a good cringe, right? That voice is telling you, hey, maybe don't do that, you know? Because there's moments where I've felt cringe when I've like had a social interaction and I might have said something weird, right? Or I was like weird, you know? And I remember just like, as I'm walking away from that interaction, I'm like, that was so cringe. Why did I like joke with their name? Like, you know what I mean? But it's like, that's good because it's telling me don't do that. I think the part that you're dealing with is that there's a cringe to you where you aren't defining it to the T. So it's hard to figure out how to improve it or how to avoid it. The way that I would describe it is because you aren't defining exactly why you're cringing, then now you're attaching that label to your whole entire self. Let's say if I was really bad at shading when it comes to drawing and I can't shade for my life.
Yeah.
But I never define that and I never write it down, then it's easy for me to say that I'm just a bad illustrator. Instead of me being like, hey, I'm just a bad shader. And that's something that I just need to improve on.
No, that's a really good point, actually. Yeah, because I feel like
Can't tell if you're joking.
I'm not joking. These are all real reactions where I'm like actually real time realizing, oh no, that makes a lot of sense. Yeah, I think because I don't identify like exactly what the issue is or what the thing I want to improve on is, I'm just like, overall, now I'm just a bad speaker or a bad communicator.
Right, and that isn't the case.
I think I think you put into words what I struggle with, where I think I just expect myself to get better at all aspects at the same time. And I think sometimes I'm a little scared to just pick one aspect because it just doesn't feel like enough improvement has been happening.
I think what you're expecting is you're expecting to be this amazing podcast speaker after one small improvement. And I think that I don't even expect that of us. I know that this podcast is that like, it's something that will improve over the course of many, many episodes. And I think we're only on episode like 16, right? And I think a lot of the podcasts, they blow up at episode like 60, if ever, you know, and most podcasts don't even make it to episode 21. And so I don't think that it's fair that you're giving yourself this level of hate because it's not deserved.
Thanks.
Like the way that we build this set, for those who have been listening, this is like a fucking my room, guys. This is nothing. This is just like fabric on a wall, right? These mics were just given to us for like Christmas from a friend, right? This table is from IKEA that has like a vinyl thing on top of it. Like those things are small improvements that we're working on because eventually we have like these goals that we want to achieve, right? But don't expect yourself to be this amazing speaker after one critique session, because it's not fair. And even if I'm not saying that you shouldn't critique yourself, you definitely should, right? Because we want to improve. But when you say it though, say it holistically. Be fair with yourself.
Yeah, I don't know why I'm not fair with myself. No, these are all good points. I really don't know what to say in response because I'm just taking in your advice. And I think it is very true, and I haven't been doing that, and I can't like add on to it because I haven't experienced it. You know, like I agree with what you're saying, and I can't even add on like, yeah, and if you do that, then blah blah blah. It's well like, duh, but you should try it first, Joey, so you're not as sad and not crying for the 5th time today.
Before we close off this podcast, I will. There's two things I want to do. The first thing is I do want to acknowledge that is not the reason for this podcast. What I said in the car, I will say to the audience. And it's that like, we are not expecting ourselves to be perfect people. That's not the idea. It's not that we're like learning how to be not cringe and then we teach it to you all. It's more just like we learn how to approach it and then we teach it and then we both do it together. Like you guys and us. So when Joey is saying that like, there's also this pressure that Joey told me about where she's like, oh, I can't even talk about being cringe because I still feel that way. And I'm like, girl, literally that's everybody, you know? And I think that's the whole point is that like people understand that they're like, people like us who are normal human beings also feel that way as well, right? Like, again, the gym crush. Like everyone has like these moments where they can't be brave. They can't be courageous. Everyone has these moments where they're having a hard time making friends or that they're feeling cringe. The idea for this podcast is not that we are perfect. The idea for this podcast is that we are trying alongside whoever is watching week after week.
Yes. Yes, that is the goal. I think I have to remind myself that like it's okay if you're still improving and that even as you're improving you can still give advice. But I think because of like this whole well, everything I've talked about or that we've discussed, I feel like my confidence has gone down a
No.
lot.
Okay.
In the sense that I'm like, I don't know if I should be giving you advice. I'm kind of like I'm not really sure, you know, if so and so should take advice from me of all people.
Why is that?
Mm, I think because I expect myself to be better. I expect myself to like
Then who?
then I guess like I don't know. I think a couple months ago I might have been happier or been crying less, and maybe that's because my standards have just gone higher and whatnot now. But like I think sometimes I just feel really sad. So I don't know if I should give advice as a really sad person.
I beg to differ. I am in the camp of because you feel that way, you are the perfect person to give advice. Because you feel sadness and you feel this level of cringe, who better to say stuff of how to improve that or at least what to try if not the person who is sad? If not the person who is cringe, right? Like that makes sense to me. You wouldn't ask someone who hasn't been through what you've gone through for advice, right? So like if I'm sad, the person to ask in the room how to deal with sadness is the person who is sad, right?
Yeah, you're
Not the
right.
person who has always been happy, because what the fuck do they know about being sad?
That's true. That's true. Yeah.
I do want to say one last thing before we get into the comment section. Try it again, the self-critique. Like, how would you say it to yourself knowing that this time you should be a little bit more holistic?
I'd say great job at actually being yourself. I know that I struggle with that a lot. I could probably improve on maybe trying to actually get my words out a little bit better.
Okay.
And hopefully I can do that next week. But good attempt.
Yes.
Yeah, I don't even know if that was good enough.
I think you did have more detailed critique when you was first critiquing yourself,
Uh-huh.
but I would say that it's a good step in the right direction.
Cool.
Coolios. To get into our weekly challenge, I will say that everyone who is listening to this, us included, what are the top 3 things that you are working on? And write a sentence that includes both the negative, like the stuff that you're working on, and also how you've improved in the past. Whether it's a business that you're running, shout out Anthony, rig designer team, guys, link in the bio. They're our friends. Or if it's like an art that you're doing or just like anything that you've been working on, write down in a sentence where it's like, these are the things I'm working on, but also I've improved on this thing. If you feel like you want to comment on that stuff and put it and share it with us, mainly share it with Joey, feel free to do that.
Yes, that would be nice.
Yes.
So to recap this episode, basically Ian helped me talk through all my feelings. Thank you, brother. I really appreciate it. And now I kind of know how to move forward with my cringe. Hopefully it helped you, if you're
Hopefully,
cringing.
guys. Be specific about what you're cringing about, and then also just be holistic. There are things that you have improved on as a human being, and there are things that you are still improving on, and that is okay. Just make sure that when you're giving yourself critique and you're making yourself cringe, that you're also acknowledging the ways that you've grown as a person.
Yes, that's very important. Be very kind to yourself and give yourself grace.
Yes.
Yeah.
And for today's comments, we have Pilot
Lassie, they said, great to listen after passing your pilot skill test. Whoa!
Yeah, hell yeah.
That's really
That
cool.
made me happy because I was like, oh shit, there's a future pilot in our fucking community. Swag.
Thank you so much for watching this episode and for getting through to the end. Thank you so much. Stay tuned for next week's episode where we talk about, well, we'll find out next week. See you next week. Bye!